When we try to understand what someone feels, especially in the early stages of getting to know them, we often look for big signs. But in truth, the little things, like the way someone texts, can tell you far more than grand gestures. Frequency, in particular, is a powerful signal. How often a man texts you is more than just a measure of time or routine. It reflects the mental space he gives you in his life. We make time for the things we value. Our energy flows where our focus goes, and communication is energy. When a man consistently texts you, checks in, or follows up without being prompted, it's not just a habit, it's an emotional footprint. It's a glimpse into how present you are in his thoughts and how much emotional bandwidth he's offering you. Sometimes we underestimate the weight of consistency. A good morning text, a midday check-in, or a thoughtful message before bed can seem small, but they're rituals of presence. They show that you exist in his rhythm, not just in moments of convenience. A man who texts regularly is not just filling silence, he's building a bridge. Every message is a small stone in that bridge, laid down with intention or lack thereof. If you find yourself always waiting, wondering, or second-guessing the timing of his replies, that silence isn't just absence, it's communication in itself. His frequency is his way of showing you what priority you hold, not by what he says, but how often he lets you into his world. There's a powerful truth in how we make space for others. In a world full of distractions, work, notifications, stress, who we choose to message says something about where we invest our attention. If a man's texting is sporadic, brief, or absent, it often reveals that his thoughts are elsewhere. And it's not about being busy, because we're all busy, but we still manage to make time for what we genuinely care about. When someone matters to you, you want to share a part of your day, even if it's a short message about nothing. It's not always the content that matters, but the consistency. That consistency becomes a reflection of interest and care. Patterns are powerful. If a man texts you regularly, he's setting a rhythm. He's telling you that you belong in his day, in his thoughts, in his cycle of connection. But when that pattern breaks or never exists, it brings uncertainty. And uncertainty in communication usually reflects uncertainty in intention. Many people text out of boredom or habit, but genuine emotional investment shows in the steadiness of their outreach. He doesn't disappear for days and come back with excuses. He doesn't wait for you to initiate. He doesn't go silent when it's inconvenient. His presence is his way of showing value. It's easy to overlook these patterns because we often want to believe in potential more than patterns. But the truth is, potential lives in the future and patterns exist now. And if you're trying to read a man's mind through his texting habits, start with the frequency. That's not to say he has to message you every hour, but if days go by without a word, or if he only texts when he wants something, then that tells you exactly how you fit into his emotional architecture. He may be kind, charming, and sweet when he does message, but inconsistency speaks louder than charisma. When someone wants to be part of your life, they don't wait for the perfect moment. They create moments. A man who is genuinely interested in you will look for reasons to talk to you, not excuses to stay distant. He'll reach out even when he's tired, even when he's stressed, because sharing that part of his life with you feels natural. Texting is one of the easiest forms of connection, yet it reveals some of the deepest truths. Who he texts, how often, and why. These are not trivial details. They are clues to his priorities, to his emotional wiring, and ultimately to where you stand in his heart. Emotional availability is not only about how someone talks to you in person, it's about how they carry you in their day-to-day routine. If he includes you regularly in the smallest parts of his day, it means he's making space for you. And space is sacred. We all only have so much of it. Texting frequency is not about being clingy or demanding. It's about reading presence. It's about understanding that time and attention are the real love languages in a digital age. When a man gives you those freely and consistently, it's not just a habit, it's a message. We often assume that the words someone uses in a message hold all the meaning, but in reality, timing carries just as much weight. The speed with which a man replies to your text can reveal volumes about his level of interest, his emotional availability, and where you truly stand in his life. A fast response isn't always about having nothing to do. It's about choosing to respond because you matter. When someone is genuinely invested, they make it a point to keep the conversation flowing. They don't let hours or days pass without contact, not because they are trying to impress, but because it feels natural to stay connected. The energy behind a quick reply is about presence, attention, and the value of shared space. Delayed or inconsistent responses, on the other hand, don't always mean that someone is busy. Sometimes they mean that responding to you isn't a priority. Everyone gets overwhelmed or distracted from time to time, but patterns of detachment in texting reflect emotional detachment in real life. If someone frequently takes their time to reply but always seems engaged with others on social media, it's not about time, it's about choice. Energy is attention. When a man is genuinely intrigued by you or emotionally open, he doesn't keep you hanging without a reason. He might not always reply instantly, but you'll never feel like you're chasing his presence. There's a difference between being unavailable and being indifferent. The truth is, when someone wants to connect with you, they don't calculate when to reply. They don't play games or make you wonder if you did something wrong. They flow naturally in the exchange, responding with openness and curiosity. The energy of someone who's excited to talk to you shows up in how little you have to question it. Quick replies feel like presence. They feel like acknowledgement. They feel like someone saying, "I see you and I want you to know that I do." And that doesn't mean they're always sending long paragraphs. It simply means they show up when it counts. A good conversation, even through texting, is a shared space, and it takes two people showing up with equal energy to keep it alive. When a man takes hours or days to reply consistently, especially without acknowledgement or explanation, it changes the tone of the connection. That delay isn't neutral, it becomes a signal. It says, "You're not at the center of my thoughts right now." And while that can be understandable once in a while as a pattern, it speaks to emotional unavailability. People invest their time where they feel most engaged. They don't need reminders or nudges when they're truly interested. You won't need to send double texts or wonder if you're being too much. When someone is genuinely present with you emotionally, their replies feel effortless and real, not like a task to be completed when everything else is done. The energy of texting reflects inner emotional rhythms. A man who's emotionally involved will text you when he's excited, but also when he's tired, anxious, or stressed. He'll let you into his emotional landscape through responsiveness, not just with curated words. He won't disappear when he's low or inconsistent when distracted. Instead, he'll communicate, even briefly, because the connection matters to him beyond surface level attention. The timing of a text is not always about the phone. It's about how high you rank on his emotional radar. And when you're someone's priority, they don't put you on pause unless they absolutely have to. And even then, they let you know why. If you feel anxious waiting for a reply, it's not just about impatience, it's your intuition responding to emotional distance. Your gut knows when something feels off. And while it's easy to dismiss it or overthink it, response time often validates those subtle feelings. People who are emotionally aware and invested don't leave others in emotional limbo. They respond with a sense of responsibility, with kindness, and with the energy that says, "I respect your time and emotions." You don't need to chase that kind of energy. It meets you halfway without making you feel like you're asking for too much. There's a natural flow to communication when two people are aligned, and timing plays a big part in that harmony. It's not about being glued to the phone or replying within seconds every time. It's about emotional consistency. A man who truly values you doesn't want you to feel forgotten or set aside. He respects the moment you reached out. He honors it with his time, his words, and most importantly, his timing. Because in the silence between texts, something is always being communicated, and that something reveals the truth behind the screen. When we try to understand someone's feelings through their messages, it's easy to focus only on whether or not they reply, but the real insight often lies in how they express themselves, their depth, their length, their willingness to go beyond surface-level conversation. When a man sends long, thoughtful messages, it's not just about the number of words, it's about the emotional investment behind them. People don't take the time to type out real feelings, stories, or questions unless they care. A man who asks follow-up questions, shares pieces of his day, and responds to your messages with effort is showing you something vital. He's emotionally engaged. The way he crafts his messages shows that he's not just replying to be polite, he's participating in something meaningful. Short, generic, or dry replies can make even the most exciting conversation feel dull. If every message feels like a chore, or if his replies lack any warmth, curiosity, or personalization, it can often signal emotional detachment or minimal interest. A simple yeah, okay, or LOL can speak volumes. It's not about needing paragraphs every time, but rather the feeling that the person is mentally and emotionally present in the conversation. When someone values a connection, they don't just reply for the sake of it. They show up through their words. They want you to feel seen, heard, and understood, even through a screen. They share stories, react thoughtfully, and invite you into their world one text at a time. The depth of a message tells you how much someone is willing to let you in. It's easy to send a meme or a one-word reply, but it takes intention to be vulnerable, expressive, or emotionally open through text. When a man shares how his day really went, what he's struggling with, or even small personal details, he's building a bridge of intimacy. He's saying, "I trust you with this." On the other hand, if the messages stay shallow, always light, always surface level, it could mean he's keeping emotional distance. Some men communicate like this to protect themselves. Others simply don't feel invested enough. Either way, the message behind the message is always clearer than we admit to ourselves. Length alone isn't everything, but when paired with thoughtfulness, it reveals emotional texture. A long message can carry playfulness, curiosity, emotion, and respect all at once. It shows that someone took a moment out of their day not just to respond, but to connect. In a world where attention is currency, giving someone time and space in written form means something. Whether he's explaining how he felt during a moment in his day or responding in depth to what you shared, that extra effort says, "This matters to me." You don't go out of your way for people who don't matter, and that's the real truth behind effort in communication. We often confuse availability with interest, but it's depth that reveals the truth. A man can be available to respond, but the shallowness of his replies can signal that his heart isn't in it, and you can feel that. The energy of the message isn't just in the words, it's in the effort, it's in the punctuation, the emojis, the questions he asks, the way he builds on what you said. Real connection over text doesn't require poetry, it just needs presence. The presence of someone who is trying to connect, not just reply. The presence of someone who wants to keep the conversation going, not just keep it alive. When a man puts intention into his messages, he makes you feel like you're not just part of a checklist. You become a thread in his daily rhythm, a person he wants to engage with on a deeper level. That kind of communication makes you feel grounded, not anxious. You don't overanalyze when someone's words carry clarity and heart. You don't need to second guess the tone or reread for hidden meaning. It feels safe, honest, and alive. A man who connects this way over text is someone who's not afraid to let you see who he really is, even through a screen. If every conversation feels like you're pulling teeth, begging for substance, or trying to find meaning in silence, it's not just a bad day, it's a pattern. And patterns matter more than potential. A man who truly cares will offer more than fragments of his time. He'll give you a piece of his world through his words. The quality of a message matters, not because you're asking for more, but because you deserve someone who offers it freely. Connection, after all, is not measured by replies, it's measured by presence. And presence always shows in the way someone chooses to speak to you, even when you're not in the same room. In any relationship or potential connection, who initiates communication can reveal more than we often realize. When a man takes the lead and reaches out without prompting, it's not just about saying hello, it's about demonstrating intention, awareness, and care. Initiation means he's not waiting for you to remind him of your presence. He already feels it. It shows that you exist in his thoughts, not just as a reaction, but as a priority. People don't reach out to everyone. They reach out to those they feel connected to, those they want to bring closer, and those they're willing to make an effort for. When he texts first, it's a quiet way of saying, "I want to engage with you, I want to hear from you, and I want to create a space for you in my day." The balance between initiating and responding can often speak louder than words themselves. If you constantly find yourself starting conversations while he only replies, it begins to reveal an imbalance in energy and effort. Consistent one-sided initiation can feel like chasing, even when the other person seems kind and responsive. You deserve someone who meets you halfway, who feels just as drawn to reach out as you do. When initiation only comes from one side, it creates silent questions. Am I bothering him? Is he really interested? Is this connection mutual? And those questions slowly chip away at your confidence and your peace of mind. Communication isn't about who sends the most messages, but about who shows up with genuine interest. When a man rarely, if ever, starts a conversation, it's often a sign that the connection isn't top of mind for him. It doesn't mean he dislikes you or that he's intentionally distant, but it may mean that his emotional involvement hasn't reached the same level as yours. A strong connection thrives when both people lean in, when both feel the pull to connect and express. If he only responds when you text first, it can suggest that he's in a more passive role emotionally, possibly waiting to see how things unfold rather than investing in shaping the bond himself. And while some people are naturally more reserved, a lack of initiation still often reflects the depth of their desire to communicate. People make time for what they want. and they also make space for who they care about. Initiating a message doesn't require a grand gesture. It can be a simple check-in, a joke, a question, or even a random thought. These small moments are not insignificant. They are invitations to closeness. They say, "You were on my mind, and I wanted to bring you into my world for a second." When a man does this, it not only shows you that you're important to him, but it also builds trust. It allows the conversation to be two-way rather than a reaction loop where you're always waiting for him to care enough to reply. There's also a vulnerability in initiating that shouldn't be overlooked. It means risking rejection, putting yourself out there, and being the one to open a door. When a man consistently does this, he's not just showing confidence, he's showing emotional courage. He's signaling that he's willing to take the risk because you're worth it. And when that energy is mutual, it feels effortless. Both people are leaning in, both are reaching out, and neither has to overthink their role in the connection. It becomes a rhythm, a mutual exchange, not a performance or a pattern of one giving and the other receiving. When a man rarely initiates, it can slowly begin to create doubt in your mind. You may find yourself questioning whether the connection is real or just convenient. You may begin to carry the weight of the relationship in silence, hoping that if you keep trying, he'll eventually match your energy. But relationships don't grow through silent hope. They grow through mutual action. If someone wants to be in your life, they'll try to be. They won't always wait for your text to appear before remembering you exist. They'll remember you in the quiet moments, the pauses in their day, the small gaps where they choose who to connect with. The way someone initiates a conversation often mirrors the way they'll show up in deeper parts of a relationship. Will they take responsibility? Will they be proactive? Will they invest emotionally without being prompted? Texting might seem like a small thing, but it holds a mirror to bigger truths. A man who chooses to start the dialogue is often choosing you in that moment. He's not being pushed, he's not being tested, he's acting from genuine emotion, and that matters. Because the strength of any connection isn't just built in shared laughter or long conversations. It's built in the decision to reach out again and again without needing a reason other than the person on the other side. The way a man uses words in his texts, the tone he chooses, the emojis he includes or avoids, the language he wraps around his thoughts, can speak volumes about his emotional state and intentions, far beyond what he may ever say aloud. We often focus only on what is said, but how it's said reveals his comfort level, his openness, and his desire to emotionally connect. When a man is playful in his tone, teases with care, or uses warm language that feels personal and inviting, he's creating space for intimacy. These little elements, an inside joke, a thoughtful emoji, a word choice that reflects genuine listening, are not random. They're deliberate reflections of how emotionally safe he feels with you and how invested he is in making the conversation feel alive, not robotic. Language always reveals emotional fluency. If a man communicates in a flat, distant, or overly formal tone, it often means he's emotionally guarded. While not everyone expresses warmth with hearts and smiley faces, the lack of any emotional depth or softness in language often indicates a protective wall. You'll feel it when a conversation seems more like a transaction than a shared moment. And it's not just about being romantic or flirty, it's about emotional color. A man who feels connected to you will speak with some shade of emotion, whether it's playfulness, vulnerability, or curiosity. He'll find ways to make the conversation engaging because your energy matters to him. The way someone uses tone is like a fingerprint for how emotionally present they are in the moment. Emojis are not trivial decorations in messages. They're emotional signals. A heart, a wink, a laughing face. Each one carries energy that words alone can't always express. When a man uses them intentionally, he's softening the space, adding warmth, and sometimes revealing affection he might not be ready to fully verbalize. The absence of these can sometimes suggest hesitation or emotional restraint, especially if the overall language feels distant. It's not about needing emojis to validate feelings, but when someone feels emotionally safe and open, they naturally let playfulness and expressiveness flow. You begin to see that their messages are not just sentences, they're experiences. They carry tone, feeling, and intention, and that's what creates emotional presence. Jokes, sarcasm, and flirtation also tell their own story. When a man is joking with you, especially in a way that invites connection rather than mocks it, he's showing comfort. He's saying, "I can be myself with you." Flirting, when done with sincerity and respect, is a way to build tension, closeness, and attraction. But when sarcasm is sharp or distant, or if he constantly avoids emotional topics by turning everything into a joke, that too is a message. It can be a shield, humor used to deflect rather than connect. In contrast, when jokes are layered with interest, when they build on shared experiences, and when they draw you in rather than push you away, you're witnessing someone use language to bridge emotional space rather than escape it. How he reacts to your tone also reveals a lot. If you open up, share something personal, or express emotion, and his reply is dismissive or overly dry, it's a signal of emotional unavailability. But when a man mirrors your tone, matches your emotional language, or gently deepens the conversation in response to your openness, he's showing emotional intelligence. He's listening not just to your words, but to the feeling behind them. When someone truly cares, they lean in emotionally. They take cues from how you speak and allow themselves to meet you in that same emotional territory, whether it's light and funny or deep and serious. The way a man ends his messages, whether with warmth, openness, or closure, also provides insight into his emotional mindset. Does he say good night with care? Does he acknowledge your thoughts or feelings? Or does he simply drop out of the conversation without a word, leaving silence behind like a closed door? These subtle signals build an emotional map. Every message, every emoji, every phrase chosen or avoided creates a pattern, and patterns tell us more than isolated moments ever can. Over time, you begin to see not just who he is in conversation, but who he is emotionally when no one is watching. His word choices often echo his deeper self. The man who sends messages that feel like whispers of his real thoughts, the ones that reflect attentiveness, empathy, and even insecurity, is showing vulnerability. He's trusting you with something delicate, his inner world. When a man lets that part of himself come through in his texts, you start to feel the emotional gravity of your connection. And that gravity doesn't come from saying the right thing every time. It comes from speaking with presence, from choosing words that aren't just convenient but that carry intention, from showing, through language and tone, that this conversation matters because you matter.